Rutgers was feisty as usual, but Penn State, also as usual, just had a little too much depth and talent for them to pull off the upsets. The Nittany Lions win 27-6. Once again, Tim Aiden, Patrick Herbert from BlackSheepDiaries.com joining you here on the Voice of College Football. And Pat, your shirt's back on, but you're still not a happy camper, I take it.
No, I mean, it's just a little. I mean, to begin with, these Rutgers games are always at Beaver Stadium are always disgusting and horrible and are never fun. Just for the postgame article that I wrote on BlackSheepDiaries.com, took a look at the scores. 2017, it was 35-6, and that was I think a 14-6 score at halftime. 2019, it was 27-6, so same scores today. And then in 2021 was when Bayou came in for I don't think a hurt Clifford. I mean, I think it was
he
more.
Was like he was very like he was I don't know if he was hurt, but he had the flu, I think, earlier in the week, and he just I mean he just looked awful out there. Like, just completing a basic pass took like a superhuman effort, and became clear that offense wasn't going to function at all. So that's when Vayer went in.
Yeah, so that game was also 28-0, and again, just not never pretty sight with Rutgers, which you give them credit, right? That's what Greg Schiano is kind of trying to do, is to muck it up and make it ugly, because that's likely, Rutgers' path to victory. And let's also say in defense, compared to some of those other Rutgers teams, I think 2017 was still Chris Ash at that point. Compared to some of those other Rutgers teams, this is a solid Rutgers team, right?
This is better than, this is probably the best Rutgers team that came to Happy Valley, maybe, I don't know, since the night when Saquon Barkley went off on them.
And even that Rutgers team.
Rutgers team ended up sucking from what we later learned. This may have been, frankly, this is probably the best Rutgers team since they first joined the Big Ten in 2014. That team, they won 7-5 in regular season, won their bowl games, so actually finished with 8 wins. And that was like, that was the pinnacle of their Big Ten experience so far. So this is probably their, best season since that, which again, hats off to Greg Schiano and that staff, getting what they can out of the talent they've got. But there's when you lack explosiveness in, when you're one dimensional when it comes to how explosive you can be. I mean, they have potential in the run game with Kyle Monangai and Wimsatt, the quarterback, using his legs, but Wimsatt as a passer, not so good. He was averaging less than 50% coming into this game, and he kind of showed you why, especially in the second half when got intercepted by KJ Winston. Also ended up sealing some passes above his players' heads, and just not the most accurate passer. He did get the chains moving sometimes, like mostly for his legs, but there were a couple promising drives they had, but when they got inside the red zone, the Penn State defense toughened up, kept him out of there. And fun fact, Rutgers has not reached the end zone in Beaver Stadium since 1994. That streak remains intact today. So, and actually, not to toot my own horn, my prediction was 31-6, and I had Rutgers just kicking 2 field goals. My prediction was that the defense would tighten up in the red zone and hold them to a couple field goals. So, just as I called it.
We'll say, in addition to the defense tightening up in the red zone, which they did, Rutgers also had, and both times they got to the red zone, did have penalties, right? They had the holding call, which brought them back. Probably would have been a second and goal from the 1 or the 2, or a third and goal from
right. The 1. They did shoot themselves in the foot with some really untimely penalties, holding
and
penalties.
They did it again at the end of the second quarter. So certainly credit to the Penn State defense, who was, as we continue to say, like really, really good and dominant, right? They had 3 sacks, 7 tackles for loss. They had 3 interceptions, or 3 turnovers rather. 1 interception from KJ Winston, and 2 fumble recoveries, both of which gave Penn State short field. So yeah, you can't really ask.
Top Robinson's sack fumble. I mean, that really, that was a promising looking drive for Rutgers. I'm not saying it would have ended a touchdown, but they look like they're on pace to maybe make it a 13-9 type game, and really put the pressure back on Penn State, and who at that point I think Drew Auer was already out of the game, so pressure was more on Bo Prabula and the offense to do something. But that was huge. That set up the touchdown drive, which made it Kaytron touchdown, which made it 20-6. And at that point, I was feeling pretty good. Like I figured Penn State could hit 20. That should be enough to win today with the way the defense was playing against Rutgers. So to me, that was the real turning point of the game. Chop Robinson strip sack, and then Penn State cashing it in the end zone on the ensuing drive.
Yeah, I mean, I know I said this after Indiana, but same thing today. Not that this was as close as Indiana, but I can't say I was ever concerned that Penn State was going to lose today. Maybe that's just the privilege of going 10-2. But I can't say that I was ever really nervous today. It just felt like, even for Rutgers too, when it was, even 13-6 for Rutgers to go down and score, and then Drew Auer was out, but to be able to get the ball back and score again, or just some weird stuff to happen in overtime, which granted has happened to Penn State in the past with a team like Illinois, where you get into overtimes nowadays in college football, and it is truly just a crapshoot with that the 3 overtimes ended up being 2-point conversions. But just not concerned with what Rutgers did today. I think they played well. I think if you're Greg Schiano on that staff, you can't really expect much more. Obviously the penalties, penalties killed them, but especially the fumbles killed them, giving Penn State short fields, both of which I believe Penn State converted into 2 field goals. So on that end, I think probably Rutgers can be a little frustrated, but I think all in all, they basically did what they thought that they were going to do. But I mean, Penn State's just a more talented team, and especially defensively, it takes a really special. Okay, I don't want to say special team because I don't particularly think Ohio State and Michigan are like that great, but it certainly takes a very good team to upend this Penn State team, and specifically this Penn State defense. But let's talk about the offense a little bit.
Before we do that, Pat, I just want to give a shout out to a couple new members here, Stephen Light.
Thank you, Stephen.
And Sonny Verma. Thank you, Sonny. And yes, hello to our pal Ian in Australia. He's
mate.
Watched the show a couple times. Good day, mate. Or is it good morning down there? It's probably it's got to be 7, 8 in the morning, I think. You're about 15 hours ahead of us.
Something like that. It is the daytime or nighttime or early morning. Who knows?
Probably early morning. I think it's early. It's early morning.
Yeah,
in Australia.
I think you're right.
They're way ahead of us. Before we talk about the offense, of course, it's also some housekeeping items. Got a Discord channel here. Sign up at patreon.com, search MarkRogersTV, talk college football all the time with us. And even more importantly, BlackShoeDiaries.com got your Penn State football and sports coverage year round. And by year round, I mean, we got basketball season already underway. Hockey, wrestling are happening now too. So, the winter sports are in full swing. And so even after the bowl game is over, we'll still be giving you a share of Penn State sports coverage. So
what you have to understand is that as Penn State sports fans, the off season is our Super Bowl, or at least it's my Super Bowl. Transfer portal stuff, coaching changes. We have an offensive coordinator search right now on Black Shoe Diaries. We have 15 names, 2,000 words that I wrote on potential offensive coordinators. So this is when we shine, because there's no actual games. We can't be disappointed in the offseason. It's all hope. It's all hope, and it will go away in the fall. But until that time, we really make sure that we savor it. So yes, BlackShoeDiaries.com, the only Penn State sports blog on the internet. There's no other place where you can get Penn State sports information on the internet. So please come to us.
Well said, Pat. And on that note, yes, let's dive into the offense. I probably should have put a mask on before I did this, but not pretty. Maybe as a former Penn State basketball coach would say, gritty, not pretty.
What did you expect? Were you expecting, and I say expect, not hope, because, right, I think every Penn State fan was hoping that this would be a little bit different, that maybe we'd see the offense open up a little bit. Maybe we'd see, not just running the ball down the middle and getting into 3rd and 4s and just figuring out from there. But what were you expecting anything different today, or was this kind of what we thought?
I think, well, I was expecting offense. I still expect the offense will look sluggish. Excuse me. Like, just knowing how good Rutgers defense is, I figured it'd be a slow start for the offense. Figured it'd be a close game at halftime, which it was. I expected that. Excuse me. I expected that, maybe Jaywan Sider and Ty Howell, the acting coordinators, would have maybe thrown in a different wrinkle or two to maybe try to spring Katron Allen, especially Nick Singleton, loose for a huge gain. Didn't really see much of that. They did finally run a sweep to the outside with Singleton, and then you saw flashes of what he was doing for a good chunk of last season, and of course, just our luck, he ends up getting hurt on that play, but
he did come back.
I thought it'd be a little more creativity, try to get the ball to like Singleton in space, or just, I don't know, find ways to get more production in the run game. And Katron did a decent job on the ground today, as you see on the banner scroll on the bottom. 69 yards on 2 touchdowns and 16 carries. Was definitely in the second half starting to wear down that tiring Rutgers defense. But man, the passing game, I mean, Drew Auer just looked off. I mean, I hope he's okay. We can get into talk about injury shortly, but I just remember, I think it was late in the first half. They're up 10-3. They were backed up near our own end zone because Rutgers was able to pooch punt and pin them there. And I think it was like they had an easy pitch and catch for a first down to Dante Cephas, and they're just not in sync. Like he throws it about 2 or 3 yards away from where Cephas can even attempt to make a catch. And I guess in fairness, maybe Cephas didn't turn around quickly enough, but also Drew's got to throw that on target. Like,
well, either way, because I think there was some discussion whether it was, Cephas, whether he was supposed to, go to the outside a little bit more, or whether it was Drew, it was just, he was that inaccurate the ball. But kind of the point is, like, either way, that has been the story of the season. It's either, right, Drew was inaccurate on that throw, or he and the wide receiver are off sync. And I get that, especially with Dante Cephas, just said he enrolled late, and there was, some expectation or some talk of him not quite picking up the playbook at the speed that, Penn State was hoping for, that, it's just automatically on him. But whoever it's blamed on, like, that still is a main issue of this offense this year, right?
Yeah, you can't have that. You can't have that happen. Like, that's got to be an easy pitch and catch for a first down, move the chains. At the very least, avoid punting from your own end zone. Maybe you're not going to score on that drive, but at least you can maybe get a couple more first downs, punt it back to them, give them very little time to, march downfield for even a field goal before the half ends. Maybe it's 10-3 at the half. Who knows? I mean, not that it made a difference in the long run, but, it's just the little things like that, though. It's just, that. And I think also after the first turnover, they recover the fumble at excellent starting field position at Rutgers 32. And I believe they got into a first and goal situation. They looked like they were going to punch it in, make it 14-3, and really start to take control of the game before the end of the half. And that doesn't happen. They get stuffed. They end up having to settle for 3. So it was a culmination of frustrations offensively like that. And then, of course, Drew, who, has been picking it up in the run game a little bit. Unfortunately, it came back to bite him. He took a hard shot on one of his runs and left the game, never came back. I'm not sure what kind of an injury it was. Some people were speculating concussions. I think some people were saying, like, maybe Marty was saying in the Slack, like he was having trouble lifting up his arm or something, so it could be a shoulder
Pretty
issue?
sure his shoulder, because he kept on every time even they showed him on TV. But
I
even
guess I wasn't
tweets, he
noticing,
just,
but
kept saying that he was even like trying to lift it up and wasn't able to. Penn State with a short week this week. I mean, not greatly short, right? They play Friday night, but just something
still
to I have a
monitor.
feeling, not a doctor, and I don't think you're a doctor either, Tim, but I have
No,
a feeling that we will not see Drew on the field against Michigan State on
just
Friday.
just a hunch. I would expect Bo Prabula gets his first career start, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But what were your thoughts? When you saw Drew go down, you see Bo come in. Are you thinking to yourself, well, all right, maybe we can spark a little life into this offense since Drew wasn't really throwing it that well anyway, and Bo, he's definitely much quicker when it comes to running the ball.
Yeah, I think that right. Everybody wants to, and James has said this right about Yurchich's play calling and getting Drew into a rhythm and things like that. When yes, I haven't exactly loved Yurchich's play calling. It feels very disjointed. It doesn't feel connected. But the bigger issue, and this is something that people have been screaming about since the beginning of the season, after against Delaware and against Northwestern, against Illinois and Iowa in a sense, although that was a rainy game, and UMass in a sense, although it was a rainy game, was that this offense does not generate big plays. This is like a philosophical issue that they have, that they're happy to run the ball on first down, get into a 2nd and 7 and maybe pick up a couple yards, whether it's running the ball or whether it's throwing not beyond the first down marker and getting into these third down situations, which again, against the like of, or the likes of Illinois, Northwestern, and UMass, and even Rutgers in a sense, like that's fine and that'll work because you have such a great defense. But to expect that Sider and Howe are going to come in and all of a sudden it's just going to pop for Drew, I don't think is really like that realistic. And yes, like Drew has been, I think overall, like people have been a little tough on him this year just because I think he has had some, really good games with West Virginia and Maryland, and even in those Illinois, Northwestern, Delaware, whatever games, I think he's been like fine. It's just that what we had hoped for from Drew was more than just fine.
Right.
But I don't think anybody ever thought that it was just simply, it's just the play calls during the game. I think it's this philosophical issue with what Penn State wanted their offense to be, which is staying on schedule, getting into third downs, converting third downs, ball control, and not making mistakes, when it's very clear that Drew, and I think even the running backs in some sense with Singleton and even some of Allen's runs today, that they are just programmed not to try to hit the home run. They're programmed to, whether it's the running backs, keep it upfield and follow your blockers, not kick it to the outside. And whether it was, Drew's entire season of, not forcing balls and not throwing interceptions and just taking it with defense will give you and checking down. So that's unfortunately not something that's just going to change in 6 days when you fire the offensive coordinator. That's going to be something that's going to have to be worked on over the offseason and certainly with a new offensive coordinator.
I would hope that philosophy changes in the offseason. Hire a coordinator who, is big on explosive play. And of course, look, there's a time and a place to be, on schedule, move the ball. That's important too. But you also you got to be able to hit the haymakers from time to time, especially when you're playing the Ohio States and Michigans on your schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to beat those teams by dinking and dunking your way down the field. I mean, that may work on Rutgers or almost anyone else in the schedule, not named Ohio State, Michigan, but you gotta be able to land some explosive plays. I enjoyed those last year. I lost count how many of them we had. It was fun. It was kind of aesthetically pleasing. And we were able to still, even then, we like in the second, we were able to salt games away on the ground, was staying on schedule and all. And it wasn't like we were. I mean, it's just the offense this year. Like, it just hasn't been pleasant to watch. I know they've been efficient in the other games they've won, but
that's like fair. Like, that's the thing. We are fans, and in college football in general, right? It's recruiting as well. Like, if you're a 16 or 17-year-old kid and you watch that offense, that is not fun. Like, nothing about that was fun to watch. And as a fan, right, we devote, I mean, I think most fans, right, they devote at least 3 hours Saturday to watch the game. But like you and I, as people who write about this team, right, we devote a lot of hours to it, and to the culmination of it being like this 2015 John Donovan offense. That's what it feels like. Or I made a
without
tweet
the jet sweeps.
yeah, without the jet sweeps. I made a joke that this was like, I've watched this Penn State Rutgers game 17 times from 2006 to 2007 with those Morelli, Joe Paterno teams. Like, it's just it's maddening that this is where we're still at. And you know, people, right, improve NIL, improve facilities and all that. Penn State has a 5-star quarterback. Penn State has a 5-star running back. And I know, absolutely, let's get more 5-star quarterbacks and more 5-star running backs. But when you get these guys and you still treat the offense like it's a JV offense, guess who's not going to want to come out and play in it? 5-star quarterbacks and 5-star running backs and 5-star wide receivers. That's why Penn State, every 5-star we've gotten, it feels like, especially offensively, they just don't work out. Whether it's Justin Shorter, whether it's Ricky Slade, whether it was Christian Hackerberg back in the day, now with Drew. I don't want to say Drew's not working out, but right, this was certainly not the season that everybody was expecting with a quarterback that could take us to the next level. With Nick Singleton's struggles this year, I'm hopeful that last drive can push him forward. So I know I'm starting to rant, but it's just like, at the end of the day, as fans, I know this is selfish, but can we just have a fun team to watch? And like, as
offensively, I mean, defensively, they're pretty fun to watch, but like, it's
just a little bit more offensively. Like 2017, yes, I'm sure I can go back and look at tweets and look at articles that I wrote, and it was frustrated at the time, but it at least felt like the team was exciting and fun.
They could bust off explosive plays. Yeah. I mean, they seem like a threat to be able to score a touchdown like anytime they had the ball, just given who they had on that team. I want to share Jim's comment there. I wholly agree with this. I was literally thinking this in the back of my mind, especially once Penn State got up 20-6. I was just thinking, like, don't even bother throwing the ball if you don't have to. Although I guess it wouldn't have been a bad idea to get Bo more than one throw if he is indeed going to be a starter at Michigan State next week. Yeah. Although, who knows? Maybe they can just go and just be like a service academy and just pretty much run the ball every play except for a handful of plays and probably beat Michigan State. Michigan State's just they're not bowl eligible anymore. They've probably been in quit mode for a while. And that game's going to be in Detroit instead of East Lansing. And you have to figure, it's, for to be generous, it's probably like 50-50 Penn State fans showing up.
Yeah.
For that one.
Yeah, certainly it's not going to be a strong and overwhelming Michigan State contingent. Just to go back and answer your question about, Bo coming in, a great equalizer in college football is a quarterback that can run. And like, as much as I love Drew, that is something like we're all talking about, right? The mental aspects and the accuracy. And it's just weird saying all this because of like what he looked like against West Virginia. Like, you and I came on here and we were grinning ear to ear because it was like,
oh yeah,
he gets it between the ears. Like, he's calm, cool, collected, steps up in the pocket. Moment never seems too big for him. And now it seems like, just with how this offense has been, that just drawn back. But for everything that he has to work on throwing wise and getting back to that version, the West Virginia version of Drew, he does need to improve as a runner. And that's also not being awkward and not really sliding, but falling down and taking those big hits. It's really hard to win in college football if you don't have a quarterback that can run, and also hard to run. I mean, even in the NFL, right? You look at the best teams, Pat Mahomes, he can run. Josh Allen, he can run. Jalen Hurts, he can run. So you just simply can't have, Peyton Manning like statues back there. And not that Drew is that level, but I did expect a little bit more out of him as a runner just based on, his Josh Allen comparisons coming out of college. So just something else that he needs to work on in the offseason. But once again, roundabout way to say that Bo's a fantastic runner. It seemed like Rutgers certainly was not completely ready for him because even when he was in, they were still crashing a little bit too hard on the running back.
Which is a little surprising because there's definitely game film now with Bo ripping off runs left and right. You think Rutgers might have, and they broke out a Bo package against Maryland a couple weeks ago. You think Rutgers defensive coordinator would have had them preparing for something like that, but they seemed ill prepared to, because Bo's running the same runs and he's still picking up huge chunks on the ground. But how frustrating was that at 4th and 1, like you're inside like the 5-yard line. You just need a simple lunge forward to get the first down. So, they're trying to push Bo forward, and then Bo kind of runs backwards, thinking he can, maybe sidestep his way to a first down, and ends up, losing yardage. Rutgers takes over on downs. But that was a moment where you're thinking, like, the way we're moving the ball, like, we're going to pound that in and, basically effectively put the game on ice. And then you're thinking, well, guess it'll have to wait a bit.
Yeah, I don't think Bo has practiced QB sneak all that much, considering that he went, and they talked about this on the broadcast, but went high, which is, going to give the defense the opportunity to then have leverage and drive him back. I don't know. I think that, right, teams have kind of been broken by the Eagles push with this QB sneak that it's just, you watch them doing it so easy when you forget that the Eagles have, I would say, probably a top 5 offensive line in the NFL conservatively, along with a quarterback that can squat 600 pounds and is just, so good at picking those up. And I think QB sneaks, people complain that it's like a bad play call, but it's only a bad play call if you can't get it. And now saying that, I can't say I particularly love that call. I think Jurčić and the Penn State offense this year in general has been, just with some of their goal line packages and the wing T and, sometimes bringing everybody close, thinking that you can win all those one-on-one blocks when, especially with someone like Bo, who's so good at, the read option, that if they spread everybody out, right, they go 3 wide with one tight end and, whoever Singleton or Allen in the backfield, and you just run a simple RPO on 3rd down, does that work? But again, that's the grand scheme of things, not the biggest issue in the world. What did you think about, though? Like, what is your, I don't want to say long-term take, because again, Drew, let me be very clear, and I think you agree with this, Tim. Drew Aller is going to be Penn State's starting quarterback next year, provided that he's, again, crazy scenario where, right, he gets injured or he transfers, which
hopefully his shoulder or whatever it is okay. Like, it's not some long-term, doesn't affect his game long-term. That's the other concern. But yeah, aside from that though, he's still your QB1. The fact that they let Bo try to throw it beyond maybe like a simple screen pass or something is proof positive of that. But Bo, look, for what he was brought in to do, just maybe give the offense another running threat under center and, try to, keep the defense on its toes. I think he mostly accomplished that. Obviously I didn't like how they failed to pick up the first down on 4th and 1, but overall he was able to help move the chain, basically. Yeah. Like Jim was saying earlier, using the Michigan strategy, just run. And actually, I think it opened up things for Katron and Nick, because now they have to worry about, Bo just tucking and running. So, it opens things up for the running backs. Like they have to kind of play a guessing game now. So they I don't think they were prepared for that, because, they knew Aller wasn't gonna tuck in and run as much as Bo does. So, I think he did what he was called in to do. And they'll be called on to do a bit more next week, I would imagine. I imagine he'll probably have to throw it downfield a couple of times too, perhaps. But we can get in. I guess we can get into the Michigan State game in a little bit. But all in all, I can't complain too much about Bo. I think he helped grind Rutgers down, help Penn State pull away in the end. So that's what he didn't lose them the game. So that's also did a good job. I think he actually did fumble though on the touchdown run of his, but he was, luckily it just fell straight to the ground. He was able to just pick it back up and just run it in. But otherwise I think he did good. I don't have too many complaints.
Yeah. I think in an offense like this anyway, which, like we said before, isn't really sustainable for what Penn State wants to be long-term, which is a team that can, go to, well, it's the 4-team college football playoff, but the 12-team college football playoff, and wants to compete for Big Ten championships. But if they want to do this, quasi Iowa thing with a little bit more spread concepts, with such like a focus on the running game and not really ever passing it downfield and stretching the field, then having Bo is weirdly, like, I don't want to say a better quarterback, but certainly a better fit for what they want to do.
Yeah, Ian saying enjoy watching American football. Never understand why there's so many stoppages. The game's over, coach and players in the field make more decisions. I mean, that's pretty much been American football as long as I can remember.
Yeah, got to make that money. Got to get those commercial breaks. They had, I think it was Ben Jones that tweeted, it was a 22-minute first quarter. And as soon as that hit, you were like, oh, okay, they are going to absolutely milk every.
There were literally, Pat, there was one moment where it was like 5 minutes of commercials and they didn't go back. Like, I forget who had the ball, but when they come back from commercials, 3rd and 3, I'm thinking, are you kidding me? Like you ran so many damn commercials that you forgot to go back to when game action had started again. This is FS1 Fox for you. I mean, I really don't know what the Big Ten's thinking, allowing them to have a majority stake in the media rights. They're the worst.
It's crazy. Like, and you can look at games and granted, today's game actually did go by in the grand scheme of things pretty quickly, but it was also because if it had normal commercial breaks, it would have been done in like 2 hours and 10 minutes. Instead, they had to make sure to get as many commercials in as possible. But
just change the damn clock rules back. I mean, it hasn't. It's not. The games aren't any significantly shorter. It's just an excuse to put in more commercials. Just give us some more damn football if you're going to do that. I mean,
Rutgers also had 700 injuries today. And I'm not saying that they were like faking. I actually mean like.
No, they were legit. I mean, their offensive line, especially in the second half, was just dropping like flies. And like, even when they were driving, you kept thinking to yourself, well, they keep losing these old linemen. I mean, Penn State's defense is just going to feast on them.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I actually would like to know how many injury stoppages they had because it was absolutely in double digits.
I lost count.
There were so many. And once again, this is not like I feel like college football fans nowadays are so easy and quick to yell about players faking injuries, not saying that they're faking injuries because so many of those were on offense, which wouldn't have made any sense for them to fake an injury. But that also didn't help matters because Fox was just pay those checks. Let's see that money. Let's put in a commercial for an injury. So
Phillips says you no longer need receivers. Look how they won with none. Maybe put 3 tight ends and 3 backs, including quarterbacks to be runners, might work. I think the only thing that's missing in there, Pat, is a mention of a fullback, but I think this has got to excite you.
I mean, issue with the fullback is we don't have any on the roster, so we'll have to do a little bit of recruiting, which I fully will be happy to take that over for James Franklin. If he wants to hire me as the fullback recruiter, I will go out there and I will get the best damn fullback in America. I can promise you that. Yeah, no catch for Keandre Lambert-Smith or Dante Cephas. I know there was a point where Drew audibled out of what was probably a passing call to a run call, and the reason that I know that is because Keandre Lambert-Smith was visibly shaking his head on the field, which, like, dude, I get it. You're frustrated, but can you not? You're just being a big baby about it. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I fully want this offense to open up, but these receivers, like, doesn't seem that good. And I don't know if you saw the tweets that were posted on Twitter earlier this week that were then deleted because they were from a pay site, but not painting the Penn State wide receiver position group in the best of light when it comes to their work ethic. We don't have to get too much more into that, but
but expect a lot of people hitting the portal due to a lack of work ethic. Not Marcus Hagen's fault. I think that's just that's the room he inherited. Don't know how it's amazing that it deteriorated that badly in the first place. But
it's just weird because it's really not that people talk about the talent. Like Taylor Stubblefield was, a bit of an oddball of a guy considering that he was, recruiting for Penn State wearing a Miami U belt for a little bit and didn't seem
when
to
he
understand
back when he first got hired.
Yeah, didn't understand why that would be perceived wrong. But I mean, Caden Saunders was I thought was a 5-star personally, and was a top 50 recruit. Anthony Ivey was a 4-star. Kendra Lambert-Smith was a 4-star. Dante Cevis obviously was very good at Kent State, and the MAC was, a first-team All-MAC guy. Malik McLean was a 4-star recruit and went to Florida State originally and did pretty well there, all things considered. So it's not like they recruited like that terribly, like compared to some of the positions. Like, yes, it's not tight end or running back where it's just like stacks on stacks on stacks of guys. But it seems like, once again, how we're talking with the offense philosophically, it seems like the mentality in that wide receiver room, maybe it wasn't where it should be leadership wise. And not saying where that blame should be put, but it kind of falls on everyone in that room. But yeah, certainly give Higgins. I'm a big Higgins fan. He's like cousins with Allen Iverson. I will always be a Marquise Higgins fan. So
yeah, we need to get some shot. I don't know if AI showed up to any games this year at Beaver Stadium, but hopefully we'll get some shots in the future of him rocking some Penn State gear. Just like, when you remember Flavor Flav showing up to Penn State basketball games when Shep Garner's on the team, something like that. Hopefully we get some shots of AI rocking some Penn State swag in the future. So there's that. But so I guess we've talked enough about Rutgers. I think 37 minutes. That's got to be a record. So do you want to talk about Michigan State next week, or do you want to talk about the offensive coordinator search?
I mean, I guess it probably makes more sense to talk about Michigan State just because we honestly don't know too much about the offense coordinator search. Well, let's talk about it for a little bit.
Just briefly. I mean, we could speculate all day, but I'll say one thing that's pretty clear after this game is you can dump all your Jawan Sider for OC stock. That ain't happening. So it's going to be an external hire. I've seen. I just you can rattle off some names because I think you put together a big board on Black Shoe Diaries. But yes, I'm thinking names like Sean Lewis, formerly Colorado's coordinator before Deion Sanders, for some reason, decided to demote him, even though it's not his fault that there's no offensive line to protect Shedeur Sanders.
Yes, I'll rattle through some names, and you can kind of give me. Well, we can both give thoughts, but Joe Brady was the first name that everybody obviously thought of. Was the QB coach for the Bills, is now the interim offensive coordinator. So I don't think that hire will line up correctly because Joe Brady, even if it's in an interim stage, he's not going to leave the Bills during the season to become Penn State's offensive coordinator.
I also don't know if he wants to come back to the college game. I think he prefers the NFL.
Probably.
You don't have to deal with recruiting.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing with offensive coordinators is that, ideally, Penn State's not going to be asking much of the offensive coordinator to really grind when it comes to, hitting so many different recruiting stops and stuff like that, right? They're really just going to be focused on quarterbacks themselves, right? So you go out to see some kids throw, but I don't think that Penn State's going to be asking, whoever comes in to.
My other concern with Brady is just, I just wondered, was this simply him being right place, right time at LSU? I mean, just with the talent they had there, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, amongst others. Once he went off to once he became Matt Rule's offensive coordinator to the Panthers, he flamed out of there. And I mean, I guess he's maybe rebuilt his reputation a bit at the Bills, but
well, here's the defense.
I'd still be a little iffy on Brady. If it ends up being Joe Brady, I'm certainly not going to complain. I mean, I'll be on board, but
here would be the defense for Brady. And let me just say, just to circle back just for a second, Penn State absolutely, I've heard, people say the timeline is by the bowl game, 0% chance. If Penn State takes into the bowl game to hire an offensive coordinator, you can say goodbye to a whole lot of players because they're not going to stick around for.
Right. No, the hire is I expect the hire to be made.
It'll come in
before
days.
The first Monday of December. That's when the transfer portal opens for everybody. They want to have their guy in place before then. So the offensive players will know who's coming in. you know, you won't have a whole bunch of guys jumping in the portal to explore options while, you know, Penn State's still trying to figure it out. So you have to imagine. I mean, I know, I'll say, I mean, Franklin, Penn State, they're very tight-lipped when it comes to these coordinator searches. It was the same way with D coordinator. I don't remember. I'd look back, but I don't remember Manny Diaz even being on the short list.
He was.
Like,
it was expected. It was Jim Knowles, Elijah Robinson, and Manny Diaz was kind of the three. I don't want to say like the original three, but certainly towards the
end. I remember a lot of Elijah Robinson and Jim Knowles.
That was Elijah Robinson was good times.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, I've seen Sean Lewis's name. I've seen.
Anyway, I just want to say, sorry,
Bill Moorhead.
Hiring timeline, like you said, portal opens the Monday after championship, conference championship.
That would be the 4th, I believe.
4th. Penn State's season is up, or is going to be over
next Friday.
This coming Friday. So that's November 24th. So between the 24th and the 4th, Penn State is hiring an offensive coordinator. It's not going to, like, this whole idea that it's like, oh, the timeline is before early signing day, or it's before the bowl game or after the bowl game. Like, 100% not. And if it's not, it's a complete failure for James Franklin and Penn State not to have someone in place, because they need to hit the ground running in the portal, not only to save their own players, but I mean, there's a lot of work to be done with the wide receivers. So absolutely. Yeah, I don't think Joe Brady is going to be all that realistic, just because it's not going to line up. Timeline's
not going to line up.
Yeah,
I mean, any NFL guy, I don't think the timeline lines up. It's going to be a college guy who's in college, or a guy who's maybe just out of the job at the moment. But
yeah, I could see non-play caller NFL guys, right? If it's a quarterback coach or something, and they can leave.
I guess that's possible, but not a coordinator in the league. I mean,
no. I mean, a coordinator in the league, probably not realistic to begin with, because, like you said, nobody really wants to deal.
What do you think, Joe? Your daddy, Joe Moorhead, coming back?
We'll get to that in a second. So, right, you mentioned Sean Lewis, who would be a rather big switch in, offensive philosophies. The only thing I'll say is that people seem to think that Kent State was like, and Colorado, definitely more with Colorado, but that Sean Lewis's offense is like Mike Leach at Texas Tech in 2007, when that's not the case. They run the ball a lot. They just run it from 11 personnel, where they have wide receivers spread out and they're using the entire field. So I would be happy with Sean Lewis. Joe Moorhead, I mean, here's the thing. It's my dad. I can't not. Obviously, I'd be happy with him. The only thing that I'll say, I don't know if it depends how you look at it, right? So it's like, on one sense, it's like Franklin is just going back to what works, which is like, okay, he trusts Joe. Joe's a smart guy. He'll be the head coach of the offense, blah, blah, blah. It's just like, I don't know. I also feel a little off on him just trying to go back to what works. Like, and I get that just contradicts what I just said, but it's like, is that James thinking as progressively as he can, or is it him being like conservative and stubborn in a way, trying to just be like, well, this worked in 2016, 2017, where, offensive have changed greatly, and I'm going to try this again. So, I mean, what were your thoughts be on Moorhead? Like, I'd be happy with him coming back.
I mean, I wouldn't hate it, but I would have concerns. I mean, Saquon Barkley's not walking through that door. Trace McSorley's not walking through that door. Mike Gesicki's not walking through that door.
But Trace McSorley, when Joe got there,
Trace
McSorley
was not walking through that door.
Mike Gesicki was not Mike Gesicki. Chris Godwin.
True, but he doesn't. I feel like that offense needs a dual threat quarterback. And I mean, and Drew, to his credit, he was starting to show some running ability, but I do wonder, and Joe Moorhead's all about that RPO, and I don't think the RPO is a good fit for Drew's skill set. So,
yeah,
I guess I'd have some concerns. They can definitely do worse, I guess, but the
only thing I'll say though is just because obviously Brady gets it a lot with the LSU offense that he had, and Joe gets it with the 2016, 2017 offense at Penn State. But just to be clear, no matter who they hire, they will need the players to be better. Like, that's like
absolutely.
They need Drew to take a step. They need Nick Singleton to take a step. They need whatever tight ends end up coming back. Theo Johnson, Tyler Warren both walked at senior day today, which doesn't mean a whole lot, but even behind them, Dinkins and Rampelier and
right.
The
The talented guys playing to their potential, which many of them are not right now. And you got to go hit the portal and get some receivers with actual work ethics who want to be there and put in the effort. So
the only other, we can wrap up offensive coordinator. We're already 45 minutes into this, so
right.
We won't go through all 15 names, but the three that jumped out to me that I like: Kirby Moore at Missouri, brother of Kellen Moore, the former Boise State quarterback and now Los Angeles Chargers offensive coordinator. Kirby did really good stuff at Fresno State in 2022. He goes to Missouri, completely changes that offense and has them really trucking along. Young guy, only 32 years old. He's making in the $800,000 area, so absolutely someone that Penn State should be able to double his salary. Same thing with Colin Klein. Of course, if you're a college football fan, you know Colin Klein, former Kansas State quarterback, has been the offense coordinator at Kansas State the last 2 years, obviously his alma mater, and has taken them to new heights because under Chris Klieman, those offenses had not been good. Klein has a fun tie with James Franklin. James Franklin's who recruited him to Kansas State. Back when James was at Kansas State, he recruited Colin Klein and got his commitment. So I like to think that there's still some sort of connection there. Klein, also a guy that's making in the $800,000 area. He interviewed at Notre Dame last offseason, but opted to stay at Kansas State. So we'll see what happens. And then sticking with Kansas, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, so I might get this wrong, but Andy Kotelnicki.
That sounds right.
He's been with blanking on the Lance Leipold. He's been with Lance Leipold since the Wisconsin Whitewater days. Has been his offense coordinator there at the tail end. Then was at Buffalo, where Buffalo had a really good run there with Leipold, and now at Kansas, where they have completely turned things around in large part thanks to their offense. So those are just three names that if you're kind of curious on learning more about that I would take a look at. Kotelnicki does make, I think, $1 million, if not $1.25 million already. So he's going to be a little bit on the pricier side. But once again, just from everything that James has said as far as alignment and Pat Kraft and just things that have changed at Penn State, how
money should not be an issue, from what I understand. I feel like he's got a virtual blank check to hire who he wants.
Certainly not expecting $2.5 million or something crazy like that.
No, but money will. The guy that he wants, if he doesn't get it, it's not going to be because they couldn't pay that person enough.
Yeah,
and again, for other reasons.
Within reason, right? Garrett Riley at Clemson's making $2 million. I don't know if they're going to go too crazy with trying to get someone like that, but yeah. So that's just really quick thoughts on offense coordinator.
And surely I hope maybe this upcoming week we'll find out. I don't know when I would expect the hire is going to be announced between now and probably by championship Saturday. They obviously want to have someone hired and in place maybe before championship. I mean, because they obviously hire the guy, you probably want to have him meet the offensive players at least before the portal opens up.
I would expect something after the Michigan State game.
It's a quick time. Yeah, I would say that. Probably Thanksgiving weekend, I'd expect to hear something. So,
I don't think it'll be too long. And that was kind of the point of not waiting until
That's why they fired Yursich right after the weekend after the Denver Michigan game for a reason. So they wanted to get a head start. They wanted to get someone in before the end of the regular season and the portal opens up. So there you go. Obviously, we'll have more to come on this. So BlackShireDiaries.com. Go check us out for that. Before we go, let's take a quick look at Sparty, Michigan State. They rallied in the last minute to beat Indiana on the road today, 24-21. So they now sit at 4-7 on the season. They were already knocked out of bowl contention officially last week and getting waxed on the road at Ohio State. And given that this game is going to be in Detroit on Black Friday as opposed to a Saturday afternoon in East Lansing, we would definitely have more of a pro Michigan State crowd there. I'm just not sure. I feel like it's going to have more of a neutral site kind of environment, and maybe one that maybe leans more in Penn State's favor. And also the motivational factor. obviously, Michigan State's got to be feeling good because they won, but still, I mean, Penn State obviously they want to end their season on a winning note. Solidify a New Year's Six bowl bid with a win, and solidify back-to-back 10+ win seasons, which would be an accomplishment. Even though we're obviously disappointed with how we got there, but still things for Penn State to play for. Michigan State is just about pride, maybe just ending your season on back-to-back wins. Obviously, better days are ahead for them with with whoever they end up hiring and as a head coach. But I guess my thoughts early on, just I'm really curious to see what the offensive strategy is going to be, assuming Bo Prabula gets the start, because I'm not confident Drew's arm is going to get better in 6 days. Like I said, I think we could look like a service academy, just run, maybe throw the occasional pass. Defensively, I expect them to do their thing and keep Sparty in check. They don't really have a explosive run game. Malik Carr is a good receiver. Caton Hauser's decent quarterback, but nothing to really fear. Like, I think they could get a good pass rush going and make his life miserable. So, I think they can hold Sparty into the, hold him like in the tens scoring wise. So it's a game where Penn State can, hit like 24 points. They should be able to win this game without too much trouble. What are your thoughts, Pat?
Michigan State stinks. Penn State should win even without Drew. I don't think that this should be a game that should cause, I won't say too much trouble, because Penn State unfortunately is not exactly good either. But no, I kind of expect this game to go how a lot of Penn State games have gone against, whether it's Northwestern or Illinois or today or Indiana, where maybe it's tight for a little bit, but Penn State pulls away at the end. It's just weird without Drew, trying to think of what this offense will be. But kind of like I said before, if you're going to run this type of offense where they're not stretching the field anyway, like their ideal is to run on first and second down and to get into third and manageable situations and get the defense kind of off script. And if that's the case, then Bo almost kind of helps you there. So I don't think it's going to be as much of a drop back from kind of what we've seen offensively. It will be interesting to see Bo have to, maybe throw a little bit more. Again, I'm not expecting him to, right? If we had to put the over-under on passes the 10th by Bo, I don't know where it would be at. I'm thinking like, man, it kind of depends upon like the game. Like if Penn State, say
6, 7.
Yeah. I was thinking like 10, 11, like, would you go double digits? Obviously it depends upon the game, right? If Penn State comes out and say there's like a fumble.
That'd be a good betting line. How many passes will Bo Prabula throw?
I really don't know what it would be, but they will obviously probably need him to do a little bit more with his arm. But again, just kind of what this offense is, you're not asking him to throw it, 20, 30 yards down the middle of the field into, a tight window where safety's coming over. They're, like we've seen with Drew this year, they're going to be extremely cautious. So I wouldn't expect too much of a drop off there. And then, the Penn State defense obviously has been terrific in just about every single game this year. So I would expect that to be the case as long as they don't allow, those lapses like we saw against Indiana. I would expect Penn State to win, probably in some sort of unsatisfying manner. I fortunately or unfortunately, will not be able to watch this, as I'll be at a wedding. So I cannot watch, which once again, at a couple months ago, I was kind of like, oh boy, might be to clinch the Big Ten East. And now it is certainly.
Yeah, you're not going to miss much. You go enjoy your wedding. We'll have Lando will be filling in your spot once again on our post-game show next week for Michigan State. But I'm sure you'll catch highlights, or maybe you'll take a peek on your phone.
Yeah,
at some point during the wedding. Let's take a look at some comments. Aller needs to go if Moorhead comes back. Same with Singleton. I don't know. You want to answer that one, Pat?
I'll be nice. I'll say no, and that's probably where I'll leave it at. I agree that like in theory, Moorhead's offense is going to work better with a quarterback that can run, but that's kind of like the point of an offense coordinator is that, or the good ones, is that they make it work no matter what. And one, Drew is certainly mobile enough, and I think as he completes puberty, which he's still going through as we speak, he'll not look so awkward. But no, Drew's still a good quarterback. If you go through the entire Big Ten, who are you trading Drew for? And I know that now that we say the Big Ten, that means USC and UCLA and teams like that. But like, he's fine. Like I'm not even close to wanting to bench him. So just he's still our savior. We just need it. Jesus needed 33 years, so Drew's gonna need. He's 19, so he needs 20 years. He will be the savior next season. And Singleton, listen, have been frustrated with Singleton this year. The last drive where he took the ball off tackle and actually ran for 20 some yards, and then he had the other nice run that set up 1st and goal. We saw it. It's there. Our baby boy, our explosive baby boy, is still in there somewhere. We just need to get it out of him. And Joe Moorhead, he can get it out of a running back. So, they do not have to transfer, and I don't want them to transfer. And on top of that, it's just really bad optics if your 5-star running back and 5-star quarterback come here and then they transfer after the second season. So, no to both, please.
Yeah, I hope hopefully they'll both stick, despite their frustrations. And again, this goes back to the importance of making sure you get the new offensive coordinator hired before the portal window opens, which I'm pretty confident they will do so, whoever it ends up being. So let's hope it's one that we can all at least feel intrigued about, feel like they give us some hope that they can fix up the offense, make it look more aesthetically pleasing, and some of the fans can enjoy starting next year. But I think we'll end it on that. Thanks to everyone who tuned in today, and we will see you all next Friday night. It'll be a late night show since it's a 7:30 kick, so probably starting around. I'll be at a family friend's house watching, so I won't be able to start the show right after the game. So you're probably looking at maybe an after dark show, like 11:30 midnight range. So, and of course, Lando will be guest hosting with me for that one, since Pat will be enjoying his friend's wedding. So, I hope you have a good time there, Pat. And the rest of you, will see you all next Friday night.